Check. No. Hi, my name is James, and I am the new social media coordinator for Delamo Motorsports. I've actually been the social media coordinator for a few months now, but now that I have the equipment that I need and we're ramping up on the YouTube, I thought now would be a good time to introduce myself. So like many of you, I'm a huge fan of motorsports, huge fan of power sports in general. As a kid, I had family that would ride sport bikes and ride dirt bikes, and I remember I wanted a dirt bike so bad as a kid. But my mom and my grandparents got me a quad instead because they thought it would be safer, and I'm sure for my mom's sake, she thought it would deter me from ending up on two wheels. Sorry, Mom. Look where I'm at now. I've had my M1 for over 6 years now. I think going on 7 years. Yeah, going on 7 years. So I've been riding on the street since then. My first sport bike or street bike was a Kawasaki Ninja 650. And I remember when I first got that thing, it felt huge and fast and so scary. But, you know, after a couple years, I did end up moving on to a Yamaha R6. One of my most favorite motorcycles that I've owned that unfortunately got stolen. Breaks my heart. After that, I got a Yamaha MT-07, which I unfortunately crashed earlier this year. I did have that MT-07 for a few years though, and maybe I'll tell that story in another video sometime. After that, I now have my fourth and current motorcycle, which is a 2021 Honda CBR 1000 RR. Besides motorcycles, I mean, I've ridden jet skis, I've ridden dirt bikes, I've ridden quads, I've driven a side-by-side before. I have not ridden a snowmobile yet, but I definitely would love to. Unfortunately, being in Southern California, we do not sell snowmobiles, but BRP, if you want to give me that experience, let me know. I would be more than happy to try that out. Just in general, I love motorsports. I'm a huge fan of MotoGP, huge fan of Formula One. I watch a little bit of AMA stuff. I don't watch too much other GT racing, but I do enjoy sim racing as well. So I have the Honda, my first leader bike. It's not the first leader bike that I've ridden though. I've ridden older models of the Honda CBR 1000. I've ridden a BMW S1000 RR. I've ridden quite a few Hyper Nakeds. I've ridden an adventure bike. I've ridden smaller stuff like pit bikes. I've ridden a couple of Groms. So I definitely have more experience on the road when it comes to street bikes. As to the Honda, I have a few mods, nothing too crazy. Fender eliminator. I took off the rear pegs. I have an aftermarket exhaust, it's Yoshimura Alpha T. Love that thing, beautiful sound. And I do have a fairing kit coming. It should have got here weeks ago. I don't know what's going on with the shipping on that thing, but I'll make a video of that once I swap the fairing kit on there. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys want to see the bike, so let's go to the bike. So guys, here I am. I'm riding my CBR 1000 RR. It's 2021. Like I was saying in the intro, I first started riding on the street when I took the MSF course. On that course, there were 250 bikes that I was riding, so obviously very, very forgiving on the throttle. The bike wasn't heavy at all. I was able to flat foot it since it was a cruiser and it was lower to the ground. So I got my license, and shortly after that I got my first bike, and I ended up getting a Ninja 650, and this was years ago, and I believe it was a 2007 Ninja 650, and I really wrestled with what kind of bike to get. I was debating between something like that, which is like a middle class twin cylinder, more on the sport side, and getting something like a R3 or a CBR 300. The reason why I went with the 650 is it wasn't my first time riding completely. I had ridden dirt bikes and stuff like that, so I had experience a little, although it was a little, I did have some experience working a throttle. I had been driving stick since I was 18, so I understood how a transmission worked, I understood how a clutch worked, and it was just a deal. The 650 was a deal. It was in great condition, low miles, and I think I bought it for $3,000 at the time, which, I mean, nowadays with current prices of used vehicles and used motorcycles, you won't find that. But it was just a great deal. So I pulled the trigger on the Ninja 650, and I remember I rode it, so I picked it up in LA.
okay? And I lived all the way in Orange County, and I was so nervous for that ride home. First time on the freeway, first time on a bigger bike, and I remember when I got on it, it just felt huge. It felt like a huge bike. It felt wide, it felt tall, way different than what I was riding at the motorcycle course, and yeah, just super intimidating. I will say that the bike shrinks as you get used to it. Started off feeling super big, and every time I would go riding I felt nervous, and I was commuting on it to school at the time, so I was riding often, but still every time I was gearing up I would get nervous to ride that thing. It scared me. But after time, you know, I got used to it. I built my confidence. The bike didn't feel so scary anymore to corner or to, you know, really wring out the throttle. And then eventually I had it for a couple years or a few years before I was finally considering upgrading. So I wanted a CBR 600RR at the time. But at the time, you could only finance a Honda motorcycle through Honda at the time, or at least that's what I was told by multiple dealerships, and they wouldn't approve me. So I ended up going with the Yamaha R6, since Yamaha would approve me. Shout out Yamaha. And again, when I got on that bike, it felt huge again. You know, it felt so big, so fast. The thing scared the crap out of me. And for a short time too, every time I would ride it, I would get super nervous. But that one I got used to much quicker than the Ninja 650. After a couple of weeks, it felt just like another bike to me. It was a super fun bike, beautiful bike. I still think the current or the last generation of the Yamaha R6s is one of the most aesthetic super sports out there. Obviously same with the R1, but yeah, I just loved that motorcycle, and unfortunately it got stolen. So I didn't have a bike for a bit just because I was still living in the same place, and I'm like, man, if I get another one, they're just gonna steal that one too. And I didn't have a garage. I was living in an apartment complex. So then I moved a few years ago, finally had a garage, and I'm like, all right, time to get another bike. And even when I got the R6, I always thought at the time it was FZ07, now MT07. I always thought the MT07s were super cool. I liked the look of like the standard or the naked bikes. And although the R6 was fun, that's when I learned truly how uncomfortable super sports are. I was commuting the R6, and I did a couple of rides where, you know, I was riding for like 5 hours and just everything hurting, all my joints hurting, super sore, and I'm like, dang, this thing is not good to commute on. So when it was time to get my third bike, I ended up going with an MT07, and shout out Delama Motorsports, because I got my R6 at Delama Motorsports of Long Beach, and I got the MT07 at Delama Motorsports of Orange County. So I got the MT07, and man, I love that thing. So much fun, especially going from an R6 to an MT07. Not nervous at all. It's a very forgiving bike. You could wring out the throttle and it doesn't get too scary, at least not like a super sport does. I don't condone wheelies. Delama Motorsports does not condone wheelies, and anytime I did wheelies, it was a closed course in a safe location with professional supervision. There's my disclaimer. But the MT07 is just a wheelie machine. It wants to wheelie. It has the torque, and it's just so easy to wheelie. I was able to wheelie all day, second gear. So fun bike. I definitely would love to get another one at some point and just have it as a stunt bike, probably put a cage on it. Long story short, I ended up crashing the MT07. I will tell that story in further detail another time. But I totaled the MT07. Luckily I wasn't hurt. I had full gear on, which definitely saved me. Wear your gear. So I didn't get hurt. Totaled the MT07, and I was debating getting another MT07 or maybe an MT09. I was really leaning on getting another naked bike, just because commuter friendly, comfortable, better gas mileage. But what ended up happening is a close buddy of mine, he has a CBR 1000. I rode his. Obviously it's a lot of fun. I rode a BMW S1000RR that a buddy let me borrow. That was a lot of fun. I ended up renting a S1000RR for a week, and I did a trip out to Phoenix, Arizona, which again, super uncomfortable to commute on, but it's just fun. Super sports are fun, and I'm at the point where I'm starting to get into doing more track days and stuff like that, and I eventually want to race. So another thing too is I'm young, I still have good joints, I'm in decent shape, so I'm like, you know what, I'm young right now, I could ride a super sport, and it might not be the most uncomfortable, but it is something that I could manage. So I ended up going with the CBR 1000RR. I was considering an R1 heavily. Like, again, they're just so aesthetic. I love the sound of the cross-plane engine, but they're just hard to find. It's so hard to find a base R1. I've seen a couple R1Ms in our showroom floors, but I mean, man, it's an expensive motorcycle. So I ended up going with the Honda CBR 1000RR. I'm so glad I did. I've always wanted to own a Honda, so I finally made it happen. And the minute I took it home, not scary. I mean, I've been riding for almost 7 years now. I have some decent experience on my belt. I'm gonna stop and get some food real quick, some Mick food. It's such a fun bike. It has so much character. I have the Yoshimura exhaust on it, which I think sounds amazing. I mean, just listen to it. Amazing motorcycle. Honda reliability. The thing is just solid in corners. Yeah, I love this bike. Alright, gonna grab food real quick and I will be right back. I got the bag from the Dons. Got my go-to order. 4 McDoubles. Before you judge me, I like to eat 2 now and then 2 later. They got the 2 McDoubles for $3.50. Can't beat it. Telling you, you can't beat it. But yeah, just love the sound. So I have the Yoshimura Alpha T on this thing. I got the fender eliminator kit from TST Industries. I have a fairing kit coming soon. Those are the only mods I have. I still have stock everything else. Probably won't. After I get the fairings on, I probably won't do any other mods for a while. Oh, well, I'm gonna do an ECU flash in the next couple weeks. So I guess that counts. But besides that, I don't plan on doing any other mods for a while. And if I do, it's still gonna be cosmetic. So maybe new levers, new rear sets, but nothing performance-wise. I don't really need it, honestly. Thank you, sir.
Alright everyone, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell on the bottom if you want to be notified of our next videos and keep up with our uploads. Make sure to ride safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.